we needed to develop a system in a matter of weeks and make sure it's scalable to support our large parent student base.
Technology is transforming how we think, how we lead, and how we win. From Intervision, this is Status Go, the show helping IT leaders move beyond the status quo, master their craft, and propel their IT vision. A few weeks ago, we launched a new series about cloud journeys. Intervision's field CTO for cloud, Dustin Milburn, kicked things off with a look at a people first approach to your cloud journey. Today, we are going to hear firsthand from one of the people involved in a cloud journey. We are joined by Varouj Seuylemezian. Varouj is a senior director of information technology for the Los Angeles Unified School District. The LAUSD is the second largest school district in the U.S., with a student population of over 750,000. As senior director, Varouj is responsible for the development of enterprise applications. Welcome to Status Go, Varouj.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm looking forward to our conversation today because I know we've got several different aspects of your cloud journey that we're going to talk about. And I love talking about it from the perspective of people. So let's start with you. Would you mind sharing a bit about your own career journey and what led you to the role that you're in today?
Sure. My passion and career path has always been in technology. I was a developer over 15 years, mostly on the Microsoft technologies. And after the Y2K, I left the corporate world and accepted a contract at LAUSD. My
Oh,
previous boss from Transamerica had landed to LAUSD, and she hired me to close projects. And we had no web-based systems at the time. I started coding in Microsoft ASP, and 15 years later, now we have 300 applications we support and maintain, mostly homegrown.
it's a sector that I'm not sure a lot of us would associate with custom applications. And so to have 300 different applications, a lot of them homegrown, that's been quite a journey over the last, what, almost 20 years if it was post
Yes.
Y2K. Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of unique requirements, so it's really hard to find packages that would meet our needs.
And given that tenure with the school system, you've seen a lot of change in the technologies that you not only code with, but in the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure that you write on. My own programming background, I go back to the mainframe days. That's how old I am, Varouj. I started writing COBOL back in the probably the 80s, I think. So where my journey with some of these technologies probably ended is where about the time you were starting with the school system. So talk about this journey to the cloud. I know we're going to talk about two or three projects to use as call them case studies for our conversations. So let's start with the student enrollment app. And if you don't mind, set the stage for us. What was LAUSD using for student enrollment at the time that this project kind of got legs and took off?
So everything was paper-based, and we know we've had many attempts on automating these, and we had pushbacks from various groups, regulatory or internally. And then when COVID came upon us, we suddenly started getting all these requests to automate some of the manual processes. For example, this enrollment application system in the past, we had enrollment packets where parents went to schools to pick up and then apply and then deliver the required documents back to the school. So, it was a mess, but that's what they had to follow. Now, like I said, with COVID, we needed to develop a system in a matter of weeks and make sure it's scalable to support our large parent student base.
Hmm.
Hence the cloud scalability came up, and we had conversations with AWS and got introduced to Intervision through them to help deploy and scale these systems on the AWS cloud. Developing is one thing, and deploying and scaling is a whole another process. Uh,
Hmm.
we could easily develop systems. In the past, we had to wait for to purchase a server, to install the operating system, and then deploy it, and then scale it, and it takes so long to do these things.
Hmm.
With the cloud, it's a couple of clicks away, and we have a system that's running.
And it's almost as easy as that, right? To get something set up. And I want to remind our listeners, as Varouj is describing those packets for enrollment, we're talking 750,000 students. That's an incredible workload in the manual world. So, was this the first foray into using cloud to solve some of your application development challenges?
Absolutely. This was the first system that we were able to develop in such a short time. And we did have unbelievers that this is gonna scale our, student and parent population. And sure enough, we did not have a single hiccup with this. And now, our parents apply online, upload their required documents, and the administrators in the background sitting at home are
Hmm.
managing, administering these documents, and enrolling children through our regular enrollment process.
That is a great success story. Talk to me a little bit about the people. You have a team of developers. How did you get them ready to code on the cloud? Is it a lot different than what you were doing before? And if so, how did you prepare to move in that direction so quickly?
Good question. That was a challenge, obviously. We are a Microsoft shop. We
Hmm.
do use C sharp, for example, but at the same token, the typical processes, typical software development had to adjust. We had to use .NET Core and little different technologies to be able to quickly and properly deploy to the cloud and have that scalability be there. So, hence we partnered with vendors,
Hmm.
and we hired vendors to help us code these together, and that was part of the training that my staff side by side did this and got trained on the job, as they say. And that's the process that we use. And then obviously we had the vendors watch over things, make sure we do code reviews properly. The things will work properly as it should on the cloud.
Well, kudos to you that you were able to guide your team through that transition and that learning process. You mentioned that you might have had a few naysayers as you were approaching this project. Were any of them on your team of developers, or did they jump into learning this new environment and this new world kind of feet first, so to speak?
Uh, the developers, I didn't have any pushback from the developers. Absolutely not. They were all excited to embrace the new technology, cloud, cloud, cloud. Everybody wanted to go there, and this was their opportunity and to get in there and enhance their career paths and learn new things. Step away from that regular norm that they've kind of used to and adopt
Mhm.
these new DevOps methodologies. So that wasn't big of a challenge. I mean, they were scared that they not might not succeed because it's
Mhm.
new to them. And hence, the vendor partnerships helped us and helped them oversee this.
Yeah, kind of give them that backdrop support. But you yourself
Exactly.
had to sell this to your management through the rest of the IT team. What was that process like? How were you able to convince them that, hey, we've got this problem, we can solve it with cloud, and let's go do it. What was that like?
It wasn't as easy as convincing my staff. But then again, I have a record of deploying systems and help the district in various manual processes that it's always hard at the beginning. There's always pushback from people, but then once they adopt the system and they don't want to let go, I can't even upgrade it because they don't want to let go. So
Hmm.
that's always there. There were some people thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if you guys are able to do this on the cloud. This is a whole new development. We were focused to get this done, and we proved everybody wrong.
That's got to feel good.
It absolutely does.
You convinced them to take a risk. So,
Yeah.
Varouj, as you look at that project, and I know we're going to talk about a couple of more projects here in a minute, but as you look at that student enrollment project, what were some of the major lessons learned out of going through that?
Well, it's not just that project specifically. It's just the whole concept of the cloud.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say start small and build POCs and prove that technology will work in your environment and fits your organizational needs. That's usually the key. And don't be afraid of asking help from the cloud vendors.
Hmm.
They are open to helping you, make it a win-win situation for both parties. And then lastly, I would say, do an ROI to determine how much of a reduction in physical hardware will be gained, including the maintenance and downtime,
Hmm.
and obviously factor in the quick deployments in a scalable environment. That the first applications comes up maybe a little bit slower, but then second and third, pushing those up in the same environment is just a right click and deploy.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the challenges had to have been convincing people that you were going to go from the former capex where you buy servers to run this, and there's a lot of upfront cash outlay, but then there's not much after that of real cash outlay. Did you get involved in those kinds of discussions about now we're going to have this OPEX model on this application where we're going to get ongoing charges for the use of the underlying infrastructure on the cloud?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like you said before, when we did a project, we had to factor in, hardware purchases and deployment, installations, and this and that. Now, it's a single line almost in the project
Hmm.
scope document saying ongoing cost X amount, and then there's also support in our side. But
Right.
in terms of the hardware and all that, is just usage based. So
Yeah. Just a line item. Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
line item, yes.
Well, let's look at a different project. I know that this one was more of a greenfield project. In other words, the application didn't even exist, as I understand it. Talk to us about the Beyond the Bell app and what was that process like?
So this application came about. It's a mandate, state mandate, federal requirements to require common capture and reporting systems. For our 800 to 1,000 elementary, middle school, high school, and then there were 4,000 concurrent users that were going to be using this thing. So um, it's a mobile app, and this was again our second mobile app. So we had some experience in that area, and this is basically a one-stop shop for parents and families to check in information about their kids and monitor beyond the bell needs.
So it's got a mobile front end and a cloud back end?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's standalone, so we had to architect it in a way where our data, on-premise data, which is a pretty sizable data, is nightly synced to the cloud, and then it's disconnected from the servers on premise, so it's running on its own, and the syncing is happening. daily or nightly, or some of them are every couple hours. So it's been running great. And now we're also working on our third version of the our LAUSD mobile app, and this is a huge success for us. Also, we're about to be deploying this, and this is for families to again monitor kids, keeping parents informed on their students' grades, lunch balances, activities, attendance, assignments, critical information for parents to know, and then they're handheld.
So the Beyond the Bell app and the version 3 of the mobile app that you were just
Hmm.
talking about, those are front ended by a mobile app and the back end is cloud, as we mentioned. The first project that we talked about, the student enrollment app, is that more web based or is there also a mobile front end on that?
No, the student app is strictly web based.
Okay, okay. So the Beyond the Bell app, what was the decision process like to use cloud for the back end on that, given the success that you had on the student enrollment app?
Again, there's 4,000 concurrent users. We otherwise, if cloud wasn't there, we had to scale several servers and make sure they have high availability.
Hmm.
Uh, this Beyond the Bell mobile app could be used at a park or some school somewhere in the playground. They're checking in, kids coming in, for after school programs. So this system needs to be portable, probably going to be running mostly on iPads, where the parent comes in, checks in the kid and then signs, and then eventually come back and pick up and sign. So there's a lot going on, and the system needs to be always up and running. And for us, we could scale this
Hmm.
easily on the cloud, and then when there's no usage, we could scale it back. We don't have to have this many processes running when it's not used.
I assume since your role is senior director of the enterprise applications, that there's a similar role in the infrastructure department. What's that relationship been like as you and your app dev team move more and more to cloud-based applications? Has there been some friction there that you can speak to? And if you don't want to go there, that's okay. We don't have to go there.
No, I mean there hasn't. We had a huge support from my coworker in the infrastructure team, and he was all for it as well. I can't say some of his team members were as open to this.
Hmm.
It always comes in with the change. There's always pushback. But then once they realize, I was gonna do X, Y, Z, now I'm doing A, B, C, whatever. It's still
Hmm.
work. It's still a different kind of work, but people are not gonna lose their jobs because we're going to the cloud. We're just making things easier for everyone, and have these systems running smoother than hardware on premises. So, and this relationship between me and the infrastructure director has been great, and it makes my life much easier having that relationship.
Yeah, yeah.
That way, otherwise, things could be much slower.
That is good to hear because I've talked to others in your role that maybe it hasn't been that smooth of a relationship. So I'm glad to hear that. So from the Beyond the Bell application, that app, what were your lessons learned as you worked through that project?
I don't think it was anything different, anything new we learned off of that project. Again, we did a POC on that one also with the same vendor, and that helped us to sell the product to the business unit that's asking for it, and it was an easier transition. So we didn't have any hurdles on that project. Since it's technically the second one,
Hmm.
so from here on, it should really be easier to deploy these applications with no surprises, let's say.
Yeah. The lessons learned build on each other, right?
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier the version 3 of the student system or parent system, if you will. This is a little bit different project than the first two we talked about. The first one we talked about, you were automating or digitizing a very manual process. The second one was a greenfield mobile app development for Beyond the Bell. This one, you already had an existing application that I assume was mobile, but the back end was more traditional infrastructure. Do I understand that one right?
Uh, yes and no. The mobile app version 3 is web-based and mobile.
Okay.
The website is lusc.net. Now we're pushing that and also the student grades and all these activities that students are doing. Today, there's no way for a parent to see that information in one place. They have to go to three different systems to gather this. With this mobile app version 3, we're kind of bringing it all together into one stop shop for the families to log in, or educators can log in to see where the kids are. It's very mobile friendly, easy to access. There's calendars, school calendars in there. There's notifications, push notifications, things like that. That it's scattered in different places today.
And this is a very large project when you compare it to the other two, correct?
Yes, this is a very large project. This is our version 3. We've already have a version 2 out there working today, and we have pretty good responses from parents. Hence, the version 3 is coming up, and we're gonna do a big marketing push to get more parents to participate and sign up for this.
When do you anticipate that version 3 is going to launch?
We are starting our initial testing, small pilots, February 1st, very
Oh,
soon.
so yeah, that's
Uh,
like Monday.
yes, small
I,
pilots.
yeah, I'm glad you were able to take time out of your day. To our listeners, we're recording this on Friday, January 29th. So right around the corner. I'm glad you were able to take time out of your day to talk with us when you've got that launch coming up on Monday. So
It's very exciting with us. I'm happy to talk about it. So I'm happy to do this.
when you think about it and you think about uh, where you were a year ago, January 29th, 2020, you didn't have any cloud-based applications. And fast forward a year, you're working on what will be your third major launch, and you may have some other apps in there that you've deployed in the interim, but your third major launch in less than a year. That's incredibly agile for your department and your coders and just that culture shift. And so, talk us through what it's like sitting here today and looking back a year ago. Could you have seen yourself here?
No, abs- I couldn't. We've always talked about the cloud. We've looked at various clouds. We've done small POCs. And, my team was already using agile methodologies, deploying systems, small changes, and that's been successful for us. That's what people come to us. That's what we have 300 systems. We're helping different divisions succeed themselves. So we already had the culture that develops this way. Now we have a system and architecture infrastructure that we could quickly deploy these things and scaled and more structured, and we're using proper DevOps methodologies to deploy these systems, and it's made our life much easier, and obviously the infrastructure people's lives easier too, because we don't they don't have to constantly say what's the server for and what are you doing with this, and oh, we need this CPU, we need this timer on, and we have a specific documentation we fill out. This is how much we need. This is our user base, and it's been a win-win for everybody.
That is so great to hear. As you look at 2021, we're sitting here in January, as I mentioned. What does 2021 look like for you? What other big initiatives do you have? And will they be quote unquote 100% cloud?
That's definitely our goal, to be honest with you. I don't know if we can be 100, but we could be very close to that.
Mhm.
We're looking at, DR. Obviously, with cloud technologies, we have that in place, and we're looking at having our DR on the cloud,
Mhm.
more systems as such. We're looking at, are there larger systems to see if we can move those. We have a student information systems with several hundred servers. We're going to focus on those. I think we've carved the way here with our small to medium sized systems, that how easy, not easy, but how successful it's been to move to the cloud. And I think now our goal is to move as many applications, systems that we have to the cloud.
That's fantastic. And one of the questions that I meant to ask earlier is how big is your dev team that's doing this work? How many people?
I have about 45 people,
45 people.
but that encompasses project managers, leads. Not They're not all just developers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an amazing amount of work that you were able to accomplish with that team. When we first talked the other day, I was just in awe of what you have accomplished in that year. So I would really love to turn our attention now, if you don't mind. As we talked, status go is about action. And we love to leave our listeners with some really defined action items that they can take away from our conversation. So, Varouj, talking to your peers who may not be as far along in the cloud journey as you are, what are one or two things that they should do tomorrow because they listened to our conversation today?
Sure. I kind of covered this earlier, but I think the key is to do an ROI to see, how much of this physical hardware that's going to go away, moving to the cloud, and factoring all these patches that we do, the shutdowns we do, that we don't have to deal with as much in the cloud. um, the staff that supports the databases, the operating systems, and all that. Make sure you put that on the ROI. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to see a surprising benefit going to the cloud, with these systems. And again, I would say, do a small POC. There's several opportunities to do this in different vendors,
Hmm.
prove the technology as we did that it works, and then after that, you'll see the between these two, you'll see the benefits. We have seen it, and I know many other companies have. And again, partner with a vendor or vendors that can help you through this journey.
I love that approach where you're talking about, first of all, get your ROI. That's
Yep,
always important. But start with a POC because not only can you prove the technology, your team can learn in a less critical environment than if you're doing a full blown application, right? You help with that
exactly.
learning curve by peeling off some of those smaller POCs.
That's exactly how we do. We put the team together, and here's the environment we're going to go to. Here's the application we want to build or change to move up to the cloud. And everybody went in, and then again we had the help with the vendors to help us with this. And next thing it's running on the cloud, and that's how our journey started.
Varouj, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to talk with us today. I know you've got a launch coming up very soon, and I appreciate the time commitment that it takes to record a podcast like this. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to do it. It's very exciting. Thank you.
And maybe we can have you back later in the year and we can talk about how your journey continues because we're going to be doing more of these cloud journey episodes as the year progresses. So would love to have you back on the show.
Oh, great. I'll be glad to.
To our listeners, if you have a question or want to learn more, visit intervision.com. The show notes will provide links and contact information. This is Jeff Tunn for Varouj Seuylemezian. Thank you very much for listening.
You've been listening to the Status Go podcast. You can subscribe on iTunes or get more information at intervision.com. If you'd like to contribute to the conversation, find Intervision on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Thank you for listening. Until next time.